Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we finally have some news for Warhammer 3. It's been a while, but we have a dev blog for patch 5.3 and it looks like it's going to focus very heavily on the ogres, which is quite interesting considering that they have a DLC coming out hopefully soon, But yeah, let's talk about it. We have a little bit of a message here from Mitch, so let's start with that. Hello everyone, Mitch here, Design Director on Total War Warhammer 3, back with another dev blog, this time for patch 5.3. Having now seen your reaction to 5.2, I can say it's been really wonderful. It was inspiring to see all your reactions to the new content, reworks and fixes, and in particular excitement for the future of the game. Speaking of the future, we've already been well on the way with patch 5.3, so I'll walk you through the changes and additions coming as a part of our next patch. Before that, we're touching the topic of game balance, as well as taking the chance to acknowledge some of the feedback we've seen following 5.2 and our recent dev chat video, where, among other things, we asked for your thoughts. Yep, this sounds good so far. I'm in a pretty good feeling with the game at the moment, and I think it's a lot to do with Mitch probably coming back. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the game's felt a lot better and the patches have been pretty good. So yeah, it's good to see him back. So we've got a really big section here titled Your Feedback. We've asked a few times and in a few places for more of your feedback because it helps us shape what we do, and I think we owe it to you where possible to highlight where this impacts us and what decisions we actually make because of your feedback. I called out in the dev chat video a few things that are on the list. These are high priority items that we've seen a lot of feedback on or feel quite strongly about ourselves. It's important to note that that list wasn't exhaustive, just illustrative of some of the things we'd like to tackle. Something else we've noted in the video was that not everything you asked for is going to be possible in the patches, with the notable examples being new characters. That makes sense, right? It takes a lot of time. He says it here. These take a huge amount of time and effort and a much greater portion of the team's involvement to create compared to anything else we do. That's why you'll find new lords and characters in our DLCs and also released for free alongside them. Just as you will for our next release, creating them as a part of the DLC allows us the lead time we need to do all the work to model and animate them, bring in the voice actors. It's just not feasible for patches, and that's why we wanted to set your expectations with this in our interim updates. Before anything, this makes a lot of sense. I did see a lot of people saying, oh no, this is the time that we should see certain characters. It's fine. Units are great. I like the fact that they're adding in units because it's filling out the roster with stuff that, let's be honest, shouldn't really be in DLCs anyway. When it comes to this, keep in mind when it comes to characters, I imagine it takes a lot more work because they can't mention it. CA can't mention it, but Games Workshop are a factor here. It goes to GW, then it goes back, and then it probably goes back to GW again. It's a lot of checks. I know this because I've spoken to devs at many, many different studios that have worked on Warhammer games. And that's perfectly fine because at the end of the day, Games Workshop need to make sure that everything is compliant with their IP, but it does slow down the process. Anyways, let's continue. Moving back to the topic of your feedback, one of the major points we see consistently is game balance. This topic is multifaceted and can really apply to most aspects of the game. But in particular, I want to let you know we've heard your feedback loud and clear on both control, public order, and corruption systems. And we agree with you, when such core systems aren't performing like we want them to, it can understandably have a big impact on the challenge the previous game provides, another topic we do hear your feedback on. And so both these items are high priority for us to tackle going forward, albeit not in patch 5.3. Well, that's fine though. At least they're looking at it. Control, it can be a bit of an issue sometimes. Corruption, I think, just needs to get a pure overhaul. It has no reason to exist. And it's there, right? That's all it does. It's just there. If a rework comes into effect, then yeah, I'll be super happy. I don't know what they could do with control and public order, but it's nice that they're looking at it. I don't know if some people have been complaining about it, to be honest. But yeah, let's continue. I don't have too much information to share just yet on what our plans are with these features. But the complexity of dealing with both these mechanics is larger than you might think. They're both core game systems that affect every single race in the game, and each faction's relationships with these systems can be, and often is, unique. So it's not enough for us to just say control is too easy of a system to manage, and will increase all the negative sources, for example. That might improve one faction's situation and make the system more challenging, but may ruin another's. Each race, and in some cases specific factions, needs to be considered in how they currently interact with these systems, and then balanced accordingly. For one faction, that might mean too many positive sources from their technology tree. For the faction, it might mean their building tree provides too many bonuses, and so on. So without going into too much detail, I want us to be thorough and take a really deep look at both these systems. They're long-standing Total War features, and I think they suffer from a legacy of being carried from game to game without a real deep dive into what their place in the game actually entails. I could, and probably will, write further dev blogs on these topics closer to whenever we begin to make progress, as they certainly fill up an entire blog with just me generating some initial design thoughts, let alone a detailed overview. So in summary, there is a lot of work required to tackle these issues across the whole game. It's a challenge, we're up for it, and I want to thank you for your feedback in asking us to make these a high priority, so stay tuned for more on that in future patches. Okay, so they're likely going to nerf it a little bit, which makes sense. I mean, you can get such high stuff, it's ridiculous. They still need to give incentives for higher stuff, higher control, and some proper negatives for lower control. Though it does sound pretty good. I mean, at the end of the day, this is great communication. This is stuff that we want to see more often. These dev blogs have been good so far. Let's continue. There is one more section here. Just one last thing on the topic of game balance before we dive into patch 5.3 changes. I want to mention quickly the Ancillary rebalance I've talked about in our previous developer video. We intended for this to be a part of patch 5.3, but now it won't be. I know this may be disappointing to hear, but in the interest of transparency, we wanted to let you know not only what we are releasing for you, but also the work we're doing that doesn't make the cut, so you can better understand our priorities and that we are working towards things that may not always be visible. This is a normal part of game development. It's very common, and many pieces of work we start won't make the final cut for a number of reasons. One of our designers, Will, has written in more detail below about what we've tried so far with the Ancillary system and where we might take it going forward. Ordinarily, you don't always see the work we do that doesn't make the release, but particularly where it pertains to elements of your feedback that we are actively asking for it. I think it's really important to let you know what work is ongoing towards addressing your points. This is an example of us hearing your feedback on things like balance and game challenges before making the moves to address it, at least in one smaller area. However, the Ancillary rebalance just hasn't hit our quality threshold where we're happy to release it yet, so stay tuned for more of it in the future. Okay, so it's not coming now, it's coming later. That's fine. I do like this. I like the fact it's like, yeah, we said it's going to happen soon, but it's going to move away. What I don't want this to lead in, and I'm just a little bit worried here, is talking about like future releases going, we want to do this, we want to do that, and then it just doesn't happen. It's very important there. I don't know if you guys have played a lot of WoW, but Blizzard is notorious for that, where they promise the moon and then they give you nothing. So as long as it's just like minor stuff like this, where it's like, oh no, it's just been delayed, that's fine. I just want to make it very clear there. That took a little bit longer than expected, but now we are in patch 5.3. So let's jump in with the basic intro here. I'll share with you now a look at our next patch. The first thing you'll notice below is that we've made changes and additions to 2 core Ogre Kingdom features. As you'll likely be aware, we have Ogre Kingdoms content coming in our next DLC. So with that in mind, we wanted to take the chance now to improve certain aspects of the race ready for when more content arrives. As I mentioned, we'll talk briefly about what we've been doing with the Ancillary system, and that we're adding in some new interesting items. On top of that, we'll be continuing our work on improving battle maps in our second tree cluster update. We've also got a fairly big balance update to battle coming, and last but not least, we've heard you really enjoyed the new units in patch 5.2, so we've added another one, this time for vampire counts. Okay, I think this is quite important. We're going to talk about all this, but I think if they're going to do a DLC, right, and they're going to be doing reworks like we're expecting for the ogres and so on, if you can get some stuff done early, it's really good to build up hype. Not only that, but if it's get done early, then that means the DLC team can focus on some really important stuff. So this is actually sounding fairly good. Yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised. Alright, so here we're going in with a big rework, the Mercenary Recruitment rework. The way Mercenary system works for ogres in Warhammer 3 as opposed to Warhammer 2 came with certain improvements, however also missed the mark in a number of ways, and we saw a lot of feedback asking for certain aspects of how it worked in Warhammer 2 to return, but with the addition of UI and UX improvements Warhammer 3 brought. As such, we're making a number of changes and additions to how Ogre Mercenaries now works. So this is for the recruitment and stuff. Increase the Ogre Mercenary unit cap per army to 3 from 1, so you can get a lot more Ogres. That's actually going to be so much more useful from the very beginning. Ogre Mercenary pools now also replenish at a rate of 1 unit every 5 turns. Good, there's actual replenishment now. The quality of Mercenary units available now depends on the tier of the Ogre camp. Oh, nice. That's actually pretty good. More Mercenary units are now available from Ogre camps, including Ogre Bulls, Ogre Bull dual weapons, Man-Eaters, Ogre Pistols, Mournfang Cavalry, and Ogre Giants. Yeah, dude, that's great. Yeah, that's good. So it's taking from Warhammer 2, but just a little bit improved, and it's going to replenish, so that's really good. You can have 3 units of Mournfang if you so wish, or just generally 3 units of Ogre Bulls, or mix and match. Yeah, I am very keen on this. Obviously, that does mean that you're going to have to pay their upkeep values, and they're going to be quite expensive, but if you play a decent amount of Warhammer 3, you will know how to max your upkeep. Yeah, this sounds great. I'm really happy about this. Alright, the next thing, Ogre Kingdom Bounties. We'll be taking the theme of Ogre Mercenary contracts and doing much more with it in the DLC. As such, we've renamed the existing contracts feature to Bounties. Ready for when that happens. Okay, so contracts are something else now. Along with that, we've made a number of changes and improvements. We've added a new, more thematic UI as seen below. Let's check that out. We've got an image on screen right now. Yeah, that looks a lot better. That looks a lot better. We've changed the 10-turn generation into a rolling objective bounty system. The feature was previously only available every 10 turns, which really wasn't very interactive. Instead, we've now made it so that the bounties are more of an interest more consistently. Okay, that's actually not too bad. All objectives are now available continually instead of only being available to select a single one. The gameplay for bounties is now more opportunistic in nature, so you don't have to accept a single mission, but instead can tackle any and all bounties at your leisure. Dude, this sounds great! What's really sad, though, is that the ogres are going to get fixed before Norsca, but no, this sounds really good. Genuinely, this actually sounds pretty decent. I hope it works. We'll have to wait and see, but yeah, I mean, so far so good. I'm a little worried, because obviously the whole thing with the Bretonnia rework, and then it didn't work, but this does actually sound a lot better. And it does seem like, yeah, we've got one in 10 turns expiring there, but they seem to last quite a long time, because the one for the Western Provinces seems to last for 22 turns. I'm not too keen on character eliminations, because they'll just end up being eliminated by their own right. I'm assuming you won't get that bonus, but yeah, well, it's not too bad. I can't wait to play around with this. It's weird, because now you have a reason to play with ogres to kind of test it out, but there's a DLC coming. Ancillary system rebalance and new items. Alright, this one's a pretty big section. Originally, as part of this patch, we wanted to release our first cycle of rebalanced auxiliaries alongside a selection of brand new auxiliaries to round out the item pools. We approached this idea from a systematic angle, defining new back-end tools to help us start the long process of cracking away at the balance of the hundreds of auxiliaries found across the game, with our goal being set to substantial practices that allow us to simultaneously work through our backlog as well as assist in balancing upcoming content. We built this primarily around a power budgeting matrix, where we spent an item's budget derived from how rare it is on effects to ensure that an item always had a value consummate with its rarity. Alongside this, we added modifiers that allow us to deliberately create outliers following specific design restrictions. This allowed us to track down items that were far more or less rare than expected and massage them into more appropriate brackets. Alongside adjusting the effects of the items, we had the goal of bringing in some new tech the game has seen since its inception. Barrier as a defensive stat, yes please. Okay, I like where this is going. The first part of this rebalance was planned to be released as a part of patch 5.3, but when we presented it to our internal feedback channels, the message we got back was loud and clear. We hadn't hit the mark. We take that kind of feedback seriously, so we've made the decision to delay this content while we take that feedback and interrogate our approach. Okay, before we continue, that's good. You know, like, it sounds pretty interesting. That's actually fairly good. And the fact is, yeah, feedback is now taking that into account. Remember, previous DLCs and previous launchers never did that, so this is really good. This is a good push forward. So let's continue here. Here are some of the key things we found in this feedback. The difference between high value common and low value uncommon could be far too slim. In that system, an item valued at 29 uniqueness, highest value common, and 30 uniqueness, lowest value uncommon, was only a single point. We're interrogating, leaving larger air gaps in values we assign to rarities to ensure that each jump in quality is noticeable increase in power. Okay, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like how MMOs work, right? With the different coloring system for items. I guess that's what they're trying to do, which must not be easy for a RTS game. Let's be very honest there. The value of specific effects was out of proportion with what they perceived as valuable. We've got a list of effects to re-review on this topic, fair? Some effects don't feel good standing alone spell resistance. We're finding effects like some partners in other effects to make more universally useful items. Interesting. Okay. There are certain items that were considered iconic, particularly due to having powerful effects that were brought too low by balance adjustments. Okay, yeah, that's something that's very important. There's a lot of very, very closely used items that you will always try to go for. So if they get nerfed, I feel like people would get a bit angry. So yeah, they're looking at that and trying to see to keeping them there. Yeah, I mean, overall, this sounds pretty good. And it does say here, that doesn't mean we're leaving you empty-handed, however. Patch 5.3 will still contain 18 new generic auxiliaries, which drop only for relevant factions, to help you outfit your gun totters, bow slingers, and blowpipe blasters with improvements to their range performance. Additionally, we're introducing the concept of randomly dropped unique which are extra rare and come in particularly zesty effects, such as a map that grants massively increased campaign movement at the cost of a small chance to get lost and warp to nearby random regions. In a total of 6 new unique items will be coming in 5.3 alongside the generic auxiliaries. That's actually really funny. That's actually really funny. So, Mad Map here, we've got Uncharted passes 20% chance to appear in a randomly nearby region upon ending turn, and you get plus 50 movement. That's great. I think 20 is a bit too high though, because it's still a 1 in 5 chance. But that sounds absolutely awesome. And just for a very quick note here, they have updated some more maps with the tree acne stuff. This is good. It's a commitment, and the fact that they're still honoring that commitment a few patches down the line is very good. It might not seem that important, but it is. It's those little things that do make the game better, and the trees were just awful for most of the game, so it's nice to see that getting fixed up. Alright, battle balance update. We're making a number of changes to battle balance, so now a word from our battle designer Ben on what to expect. In patch 5.3, we're shifting the multiplayer meta slightly by introducing some small and not so small changes to just about every faction in-game. My cat is being super annoying today. These tweaks aim to correct outlying units in various rosters and bring them back in line with what both we and the community expect to see. Beyond this, our aim is to keep the experience fresh by shifting the faction meta around slightly. Special thanks to Catholic Alcoholic, what a name, and the rest of the team who puts together the community source battle thread, as it's a brilliant way for us to temperature check the meta of the balance side of the game alongside our own balance tests, feedback, opinions, and metrics. Also, special thanks to our affiliate content creators for putting out videos, the usual stuff, you know, these are the battle creators and stuff like that, which is nice, yeah. There's a lot of them, and they do a lot of work. Those battles can be really annoying, especially, you guys might not know this, but in the tournament sector, which, yes, is small for multiplayer, but they have to ban units in certain locations, and like, it's just, some of them are just downright broken. It's weird. But yeah, let's read through them. Several changes to Nakai's innate attributes and army effects in campaign, Vanguard deployment, Woodsman, and Terror. Okay, not too bad. A small rework to the Black Coach's abilities. They now intensify based on how many nearby enemies have been killed. So that should make them better, right? Additional effects for the spell Glean Magic, Smell Mastery on Self, and Silence for the enemy. Yep, pretty good. Buffs to the Skull Cannon and Blood Shrine to make them more credible threats. Yeah, they're going to be stronger. That's good. They're actually kind of shitty at the moment in campaign too. Remember, when it's upgrading units like this isn't like, you know, changing the upkeep and stuff, but like this affects the campaign. A rework to the Wildwood Rangers Guardians of the Wildwood ability. You see, this stuff, it would be nice to have the stats. Obviously, that you're going to see when the patch notes eventually release, but I don't like this. It's not just a CA thing. A lot of companies do it where it's like, oh yeah, we changed this. We're not going to tell you what it does, though. Nerfs to Kislev. Specifically, some gentle MP cost increases and a reduction to the War Sled's collision power. I don't feel like the War Sleds were too much of an issue. It's more their really, really good leadership, but that I guess can't be changed. Demonic Locust abilities have been increased to 55 range to work better with alternate unit size. Thank God! This is something really important for just the campaign too, so that's actually quite good. Small rework on how the Arc of Sotek deals its damage. Again, would it be nice to see the information. More leadership for ghost-type units. Okay, yeah, that means that they're going to crumble less, which it makes a lot of sense because they're supposed to be ethereal. They're supposed to last a lot longer. More large unit feature collision attacks. Tomb Kings, Kadai Destroyer, Toad Dragon, and more. So they're going to be better, I'm assuming? I mean, that sounds good if they are better. And even more buffs for the Chariot of the Gods. Oh. Yeah, why not, right? Yeah, I mean, this sounds all right, to be honest. It's, like, still very early, and there's not a lot of information, but I'm pretty happy with that. Mostly, if they're going to just make the War Shrine, or the Blood Shrine, sorry, and the Skull Cannon better, that's going to make Khorne a lot better, which is kind of expected, considering that Skull Taker is going to be a new character. You're going to want to field demons. And they saved the best for last, which I know this might not be big for people. I know a lot of other people are going to be very excited about this, but Grave Guard with Halberds. So, I did know that a lot of people on Twitter were going, well, that's never going to happen because they were never a unit. No, Halberds were a thing back in 6th edition. So it's nice to see a throwback once again. This is becoming a big thing with Creative Assembly. They're going back to the 6th edition era for units, and I'm really happy about that. So let's read over this. We know everyone enjoyed when we added new Orcs and Goblin units with weapon variants in patch 5.2, and adding in small new additions like that is something we'd like to continue doing where possible. As such, we've added a new unit for vampire counts. The Grave Guard with Halberds, ready to shore up the undead against the relentless onslaught of cavalry, dragons, and everything in between, and at a much more reasonable price than those haunty Blood Knights. Yeah, I mean, that's good. The stats are there too, which isn't too bad. Obviously, keep in mind that this could change by the time that the patch goes live, because it doesn't look like we're going to get it this week. But yeah, like 90 armor, leadership 50, speed 27, not bad. Melee attack 20, weapon strength is 36, charge bonus 4, melee defense 36. That's not bad. Like, genuinely, that's not bad. They look great, too. God, my God, I'm just thinking about those old metal halberdiers. You see, that type of stuff I live for, man. When they go back to, like, 6th edition stuff or Storm of Chaos stuff, it makes me happy, because that was my favorite time playing, like, Warhammer Fantasy. You know, it's a simpler time when you're a kid and you don't have to worry about the world. So, yeah, it's a nice trip down memory lane. I always appreciate this. Always, always. It's only one unit it looks like that we're going to get. I don't think we're getting any more, but that's fine. It does mean, I guess, that we're not going to get any vampire stuff anytime soon. Which is fine, which is actually very fine. Or that they might be next. But I don't know, man. At this point, I'm just pretty happy. The patch is coming still in October. It's confirmed down here, so that's not too bad. I mean, better late than never. At this point, I'm just kind of excited. I really can't wait to try out those ogre things, and really, I'm just really happy to see the Grave Guard. That's nice to see just new units like that, especially requested units, right? So yeah, I'm feeling quite excited about this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion, and I'm going to go and try find some cat treats or something to distract my cat, because this has been a pain to record. He's just been attacking my feet. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Hopefully when more news about the patch, and hopefully at this point soon, you know, some news about the DLC would be nice too. See you guys.